Why don't we take a moment to get in touch with our well-being, with our health, with our vitality, with our personal strength, our magnetism, our courage. And find an easy way to do it. It is not meditation, it is not levitating, it is simply feeling good, or feeling as good as you know how to feel. Look at that. This man is already laughing. Look at that. That's a good audience. That's the kind of customers you need. Good. You say hello and they break up. Terrific. Do I know this lady? Do you want to keep it that way? Do you want to say hello?
My name is Kasia.
Kasia.
I'm with France.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing a friend. Pleasant surprise, David appeared out of nowhere. My good fortune drove in all the way from Long Island. At first I thought he drove in from California to make this. He came bearing a smile, bearing good tidings, and some money for me. That's the way to melt somebody's heart. Smile and give them some money. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Monsieur.
Oh. I've been rewarded by an autographed Alejandro Junger, MD, copy of Cleanse. Clean. Look at that. Thank you, and thank Alejandro. Isn't it ironic that people say, I don't feel that good today? Very seldom does somebody say, I'm not making myself feel too good today, I forgot it, or I don't have the time, or whatever. But the heavens decide whether we're going to feel good or not. Waiting for the heavens to come through can be a wait sometimes. Zeus has many things on his mind. Are you feeling anything good? Are you making yourself feel good? Are you making yourself feel good?
Yes, I feel good.
You feel good. You made yourself feel good.
Yeah.
Wasn't that an accident?
Accident?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Good. Are you feeling good?
Right at this moment?
More or less.
I've decided to feel good. Yes, I feel good. It's a choice.
You learned your lines fast. Quick study.
Mm.
Does that make sense to people that you decide to feel good? You decide to be healthy. You decide to have a good body. You decide these things, and then you have them, or you gotta try harder. Does that make sense? Or do we wait to become healthy to become less stressed. Zeus, please unstress me. What am I getting at? We can't set up the events of life, but we can set up how we react to them. That we can do. First of all, it takes believing that we can. And second of all, it takes doing it. XYZ happened. I have decided not to let it bother me. Can you imagine that? Feels good to be here. Feels good, feels good. And thank you for coming. You're about 15% of us, or something like that. My math was never too good, but thank you for coming. So I have a few announcements to announce. First of all, years and years ago, 1984 for those who count, one of our members filmed the meetings on VCR tape, big boxes. And a few months ago I came across them, about 18 of them to be exact. And I wondered if it were possible to get those things copied onto DVD. And I tried, and Alexandra helped me out. That Sony machine works fabulously. I thought I would have a hard time. When I put it into my own player, it spun around and got stuck. It looked like it wasn't going to happen. But the Sony machine, recommended by Her Ladyship, worked beautifully. Stick in the VCR, stick in the blank CD, press copy, and it's done. Those meetings were about 3 hours, so I waited out each one. They all came out good. The photography wasn't that good, the camera doing it with the lighting, it was what it was. You were there, but whatever was available came out good, so it's done. Now the next job is to get some help in finding where I can find like a 200 gigabyte separate hard drive to put them on and begin my game with this. And eventually Pamela will get copies. James will get copies. You were a star on a lot of these things. Yeah, James and Pamela were on every single one of them. So, and then I'm not sure yet to what extent we'll watch them, or we'll see them, or we'll take them apart, or whatever. They exist, and they will be definitely taken care of. That's one. Oddly enough, well, not oddly, but coincidentally enough, I have a conversation with Albert, and Albert inspires me. He's come to a wonderful place in himself. And what he was saying was reminding me that, for no reason that I can think of, a few months ago, I started heading in a somewhat different direction. Very much so, it seemed that what he was talking about was an embodiment of what I had been thinking about lately. It was marvelous to hear. And then we thought that maybe this has something to do with Albert and I taking the Junger cleanse at about the same time. I don't know. But I was delighted just to hear Albert speaking of what he's doing, what he's thinking, where he finds himself in life. It was encouraging, highly motivating, and terrific. I've been thinking along the same lines. How much power and to what extent can we influence the world around us? And can we influence the events in our life? Can we decide and select not only our mental states, but also the states of others around us? What's our sphere of influence? We've talked before that some people may think that your sphere of influence is 2 feet, 3 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 miles. But we definitely have a sphere of influence. Sometimes they call them vibes. Depending what mood we're in or what we put out, somebody may be affected. Can we count on this as something that we can do and expect to do, decide to do, and actually do? How does this seem to you, David?
I think there's a palpable sense when someone enters. I think there's a palpable sense when someone enters the room. You called it. Some people call it a vibe. I think everyone in this room has probably sensed a person who has great presence. And what it is that emanates from that person seems to impact the people around them. We tend to think of it in the positive. I think everyone here has probably met someone who they've sensed is a down person and has experienced what it's like, and they've called that person a downer, and so they don't want to be around that person. So it seems to this man that there's evidence that we can all trust because we've experienced it to validate what you're saying is true.
What's been your experience with this?
This man has experienced the things he just mentioned. He's also experienced in his earliest recollections with his family members. He can clearly remember as a child if his father walked into the room down, let's say, after a hard day's work, or if a brother was angry at something, or without that person opening up their mouths. And so it would do well for David to remember that he has that same impact. It's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. And so if he enters into a meeting with colleagues, or he comes home a certain way, his daughter at 18 months will surely sense whether David is emanating a positive feeling or a negative feeling.
Does David remember to walk in and do his part?
Not all the time. Gil said to David about a month, maybe 2 months ago, to remember that how important just a smile can be to a small child. And that phrase has stuck with this man, such that if David catches himself in that down state, he can flash a smile to his daughter, that it can make a difference.
You say you do it sometimes. Do you forget the other times, or it isn't important the other times? You don't want to?
Forgetting is one way of putting it. Probably David spends time in the world that Gil described, of wishing from the heavens that something would change, rather than taking it upon himself to do the work.
That last phrase was interesting to me. Taking it upon himself to do the work. That's one way of looking at it. We take it upon ourselves to try and remember and do and work. Is there a way of doing that with a sense of exuberance and joy, like this is great? What are we going to do any other way? Does it have to be attached to the idea of work? Because work always has the undertone of being something that we do it because it's good, or because we have to, because we're going to get paid. Some kind of effort is put out for a reason. Has the implication, we wish it weren't so, but it has to be. Does this idea seem like something you do because you want to do? Hey, I want to do that, or I want to feel good, or I want to have a ball. Does that make sense?
It does. It's one would think it would be the natural inclination to want to make oneself feel better, and yet this man is not. That's not his natural inclination. So perhaps instead of the word work, we could use the word effort, because at least for this man, it would take some effort, as Gil had introduced at the beginning of the meeting. Let's take a moment and check in and see how we feel, and was suggested, make yourself feel good. Make the effort.
I think as we ponder the illusions of what it is to work in this work, we forget that as we apply effort and will and time passes, we start to operate under fewer laws, not more. So in effect, these efforts to go through the daily round with a smile become something of ease. It's running a mile when you're fit as opposed to when you're not. There is no wheezing and gasping when you've overcome the illusion that work requires difficult or not worthwhile effort for some reason, because it's easier to be what I am when I wake up or walk into a room. And I understand the difference between the idea of right effort in action and the idea of right effort as a concept in which it's, oh, I forgot to do that. I don't want to do that, or I have to do that. Whereas when it's actually emotion and part of an action, it's a free and easy thing to do. It's so easy to forget that it's an illusion, that it's all so difficult. It's so much easier to just make an assumption. To do the hard work will grant you ease in life. It's oxymoronic almost.
I see a lot of young children, 2 or 3. They generally, when I see them on the street or in the supermarket, they're bubbly and running and doing something. They don't seem too flattened out. Did we start out that way, running and bubbly and hey, and pushing us, and then somehow we got flattened out? Well, bounders, those who flatten us out. So now the effort then becomes not to go along with our flattened outedness, but to return to the perhaps biblical idea of a child. What's going to bring out the child in you, David? While you're out there writing emails and calling people and tormenting them and all that. We spoke about somebody doing what they do. I gave the example. Okay, you go to the refrigerator, you're out of milk, there's the coffee, but you're out of milk. You say, what to do? Okay. Walk down the street a block and buy some more. And then all too often, the inner dialogue, oh, White, I'm so stupid, I could have bought it yesterday. Why does this happen? Oh, to go out, I got to get dressed. And perhaps I'll get a phone call. So I return. All this down, walk across the street, walk into the store. What a nuisance. That is suicidal in an operative spirit world. It's suicidal. Forgetting how lucky I am. All right, I didn't get the milk. How lucky I am that I have the $2 to go out and buy it. That I have a body that I can walk down the stairs and go get it. I'm not in a wheelchair and I have to call Meals on Wheels to take me to the door or something. That the store is open. That I don't have to have a cow to get some milk. All these. Imagine people ran out of milk, got to go get the cow. The cow's in a bad mood. You know, and he knocks down your bench and you fall down with the milk and everything. The cow's not in the mood to get milked. But here, all this is an exuberance of being alive. What a ball to be able to do this. I know from my own life. It's so easy to be at a point where everything is an oh god damn it. I left the sink water running. Jesus Christ. Now I have to get up out of the chair and walk 15, 20 feet to turn off the sink. Wow. Oh, I gotta put my shoes on. I have to breathe. What a drag. Couldn't I be attached to some machine to breathe for me? Everything in the world becomes a drag and a down. Because the only thing that seems to make sense at that point is to lie immobile and try to be as dead as possible. And eventually it happens, you know. The more you want it, the sooner it happens. But everything becomes a pain in the neck to do. Among certain peoples of the world, it's very common to give sighs a lot. A good sigh never hurts. Every once in a while, the gishrei, oh my God, I can't stand it. I forgot to buy the milk. Now I have to go down and buy more. Now, what do we do? Because everything is doing. What do we do to change this groove we're in? I think, first of all, we have to believe that we have the ability and that this will work. I believe that I can change my mood and make bubbles where there used to be whirlpools. You have to believe it first. I believe. I believe I can do it. Pareto said, but I don't know if I can do it. But okay, I have to believe. Believe I can do it. And then be willing to try it. Get over the fear. Suppose I believe I can do it. And then I can't do it. Once again, I will prove to myself what a jerk I am. I thought I could do it and I can't. Better not to try to do it because I don't want to face the disappointment of what a shlub I am. So I won't do it. So believe it can be done, then do it. And do it on a continuous basis. That means that the mind is tuned into the idea, yes I can, yes I will, and my life is going to get much better. Look, it's such a doubt to even think of a psychiatrist's office at the couch, and this guy is sitting there with his parents saying, yes. And you say, oh, last night I guess I was going to call my mother-in-law, but then she told me she didn't want to talk to me. And how do you feel about that? I can think of nothing more deadening and miserable than an hour at a psychiatrist's office. It's like, Johnny, wherever you are, I don't mean you. What does it take? What do you think it takes to have this resource always available? Hey, yes, I can. Sure, I can. I can try. What's the worst that can happen? What do you think, Mark?
I think it takes a certain amount of awareness that you're unhappy and you're tired of this. It takes a certain amount of maybe disgust with your situation to make that effort, to make the choice to do something different.
To realize this, is this going to take like 7, 8, 10, 15, 35 years? Or is that something you dig like within 10 minutes?
Could happen in 1 minute, could happen in never.
Never. How long have you been trying to get your life to be better? Since I was born. Has it worked? No. Keep at it. Or maybe go twice a week. Yeah. Awareness sounds fine, but that's also rather complicated. Here you have to go and become aware. Where on earth do you become aware? You have to go to India?
No. You just have to observe yourself.
Observe yourself.
You just have to, I think it's more about grasping a thought, changing your mind, and then changing your heart. And it can happen instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Just switch. The switch. On the
Mm-hmm. You just decide, I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm done with that.
Do you believe that by changing your mind, your life will be different?
I know.
You know this. Does everybody else know that, or are they still thinking about it, or do they believe that it's really, I gave her a couple of dollars for her to say that? Mark, do you believe a change of mind is going to change a lot?
Yeah, Mark believes it can happen instantly. It's happened here once. He remembers being here, talking, putting out the idea of wanting to feel close and loved with someone. And he remembers Pam had said, if you want to be that person, it can happen right away. Just think it can happen.
And you believed her?
Did you pay her too? And right then, it snapped. And I thought of, every time I thought about getting to know people and be closer, I thought of that moment. And it happened. And then here tonight, Mark had a busy, stressful day, like I'm sure a lot of people did. When he came in here, he noticed that he was distracted. When Mr. Gill said, well, transform yourself. It wasn't instant, but now Mark feels he is. He's thinking of all the things he has instead of all the things he doesn't have. And letting that transform his mood and being powerful to the person he likes being. So it took however long it took until this moment. And so it's just that. But Mark likes the idea presented about changing your mind, changing your heart, flipping the switch, especially the metaphor of flipping the switch. That's a very strong metaphor, and Mark likes it. Just thinking of flipping the switches. So Mark thinks it's not becoming too entrenched or rooted in a certain identity, so that one's aware that they're there, and that identity is switching there. So,
Can you speak up, please?
yeah. Okay. Sorry. So it's Mark thinks it's easier for Mark to switch when he's not too rooted or entrenched in a certain personality or thinking he is someone. And then it becomes easier. Mark finds there's a correlation between switching to a powerful Mark that embodies, he finds as positive and optimism, when he's not as entrenched in a certain personality. When he is, he finds it much harder, almost impossible. So there's a very strong correlation.
Now, do you think you can keep this idea around you more so you can do as much as you want?
Yes. Mark is practicing that now. It is happening now when he's in a certain situation. Mark has the idea that he can control how he interprets impressions, but not anything that happens. The garbage truck outside, Mr. Gill asking him a question, anything he hears, Mark is helpless over these things. They're all going to happen, no matter what Mark thinks. Mark may think he's in control, but he's not. And so, what Mark can do is when he hears a garbage truck, he can think, that's awesome, like cleaning the street.
What?
Well, he could think, he wants to jump out the window and, like Hulk smash, and just, destroy the truck. He could think, a variety of different things. But thinking, wow, thinking that positivism, and he thinks that carries with him from one moment to the next. And he finds that there's a magnetism in Mark when that happens. It attracts other people in the workplace, on the street, how people look at him compared to when it's not like that. And to Mr. Gill's question, can you do this perpetually? Mark believes you can't. All the time? No. Mark slips asleep sometimes. But that's all.
Then we also have to take in the idea of how important is something to you. When Mark said, at times, occurred to me, well, I guess at times it isn't that important to you. And at those times, you're not doing it. So then perhaps we not only have to believe that something is possible, but we have to believe that we want this very, 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 very much. Like it's on our minds to want this. Want to be happy, feel good, feel better, blossoming. If you want that to happen, it has to be on mind. There you can use your own intelligence to guide you.
Somehow it's missing from the writings that all of this self-mastery should lead to happy or light or wealthy or easier. It's not something we perceive in all the Gurdjieffian work, these lighter promises. We hear things about miracles and eternity, but it's harder to grasp. Happy is something I understand. When I don't have it, I feel at a loss for it. These senses of joy and things being a lighter way of living. And it isn't written into the code that we imagine or have been given as an automatic byline to the code. We know integrity. We know do what you say. We know, help others find the work. We have all of these codes that we carry forth into life. But I, until just recently, until I spoke with Gil recently about this, hadn't realized that it wasn't written into my code to find this lighter side to living. There was a lot of responsibility and heaviness written into my code, but not always the joy. That seemed like something I did on my time, not always something that could be written into the integral code of what we do. And the more I hear you all speak about that, it shouldn't be something we find time for. It should be something that is ours for when the moment suits it. And I feel that it would be a grave loss not to induct that into the code in some way for this person. It would also be an amazing thing to be able to bring to people. Not only can I help you find a way out of your habits, but I can help you find a way to feel lighter doing them, doing things differently. And it's that, for me, is a little bit easier to understand miraculous.
In search of.
Today I was feeling stressed, and it was the most uncomfortable feeling. So Fran decided that she would not feel that way, and she gave herself permission not to do some work she was planning to do, which was an excellent idea because she really didn't have the time to do it and would have felt even more stressed. So this person was very happy to have accomplished that today. Wishes she could say that she thinks of this every day. Hasn't, but I'm feeling the black reminder of the enforcement of that idea, and it's important tonight. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. well, things become habitual. Feeling down becomes as habitual as feeling up. Get used to feeling down. Oh, life is a drag, etc., etc. The idea of getting along somehow used to make sense to me. At this point, it doesn't make sense to me anymore. Getting along means I'll keep a roof over my head. Yeah, I'll have something to eat. I'll live. But right now, I'm thinking, how about abundance? Abundance. Why work to pay the rent? Why not work and make a lot of money and have a house near the ocean in Bermuda and have this and have that? Why not? Why not feel comfortable, joyous, have a good, terrific life? And I believe that if you wish it and you see it, you'll allow it to happen, and it will happen. Yes, I deserve a terrific life. Whereas many people, including myself for years and years, no, I don't deserve luxury. I only deserve to be removed from this, removed from that. Now I'm thinking, have abundance. Why not? And to have abundance, I firmly believe that one has to think, one, it's possible, and two, that one wants it, and that it's not all that hard to get. I firmly believe also, if your mind is open to expansion, to well-being, to health, because you can't really get any place unless you have a healthy body and a healthy mind. Your mind will always be a little nuts if you keep loading, Diet Coke into it or something, which I know gallons of Diet Coke that I read. I used to take the Diet Coke by the gallons and pour protein powder into it. Got to be healthy. Did this for years and years and years and years. To believe, yes. And then with the power that comes from that, the personal power that comes from that, comes the capacity to hear something that you should hear, to make all this well-being possible, to do what should be done, to have ideas, to listen, to relate, to assist the universe in making all this happen. But as long as we're forbidden, we don't hear, we don't do, nothing happens. So then the first rule of trying to be alive and having all these things is to desire them, to allow them to have a place in your life. What do you think, Ben? The mere mention of her name and she smiles.
No comment.
No comment. My God. No comment whatsoever?
There'll be one comment later.
What?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. This has to be thought over for a better time. Boy, oh boy. I didn't know I was asking that hard a question. James, on the recordings you used to have something to say?
I have a lot to say about this. I completely understand where you're coming from, but it's something that doesn't interest me at this time. Because I've taken a tact that I'm finding very fruitful for this person of not being concerned with the outcome at all. and trying to totally keep my attention on identifying with my consciousness. And my experience is that if I can pull the identification away from anything on the exterior, including my own body, but just on the sensations in my consciousness, and identifying with that as who I am, that I do feel okay about everything. I actually feel quite pleasantly good about all my experience, even if I'm having an experience of pain, which I recently had a very serious toothache, and I felt okay experiencing that physical pain. And this has been really kind of, over a period of maybe a year or a year and a half, I'm following more in that direction, and I'm finding that I'm feeling better more of the time, and I'm feeling that it's under my control, because all I have to do is switch my attention from the exterior events or my mind telling me, like, complaining about this or complaining about that, and focus on the experience itself. And the experience itself is always kind of clearly either okay or great. That when you're talking about having, how you were asking people, how do you feel, make yourself feel okay, or is it, do you have thoughts about feeling okay? If I just think about how unique and special it is that I am alive, and that I'm not always going to be alive, that this experience, that this consciousness is having, that this is to be relished, just to be sitting in this chair, no matter what else is going on, or just to be eating anything, or just to be walking down the street. It's always super wonderful, actually. And it's just a question of getting myself identified with that perspective.
Marvelous. Cheers. Cheers. It sounds to me like you've done something that's working for you to make you feel good.
Yes.
Would you explain that, what you did or what you do?
A lot is the mind, is when I have thoughts of, oh, woe is me, or how come I got to do this, or whatever, realizing, oh, that's my mind telling me, and focus on what is my consciousness in the moment. What is my experience? What are my sensations? Visual sensation, auditory sensation, the feeling of my body, etc. That is all going to a certain point that I can identify with as myself. And all the other stuff is kind of secondary. And when I focus on simply the input into my consciousness, the rest kind of fades away. The difficulty, we were talking about work and so on, the difficulty is there's a tendency for the focus to be on the exterior aspects of my life, or my relationships, or some things I have to do that I don't want to do, or this and that and so on. And is to pull the focus away from that and onto this other. And it's once I'm there, it's not it's not difficult maintaining it there, although it does slip away. But it's not like it's work. It's not work to be there. It's work. It's joyful and comfortable to be there. It feels good to be there. And there's a feeling of ease. There's a lightness about being there, as compared to a stress about being in the other place.
It sounds like you're talking about self-remembering. I think so. You have a self, and you remember to be in touch with it, and you remember to see life through the eyes of yourself, and you're conscious that you have a self. Bingo. That's the name of the game. Wonderful. What do you think about it? Say hello.
I was thinking about the spheres of influence earlier when you spoke of that, and what came to mind is something that does come to mind a lot when I think of that idea. I think of the way I understand this idea of spheres of influence in each of our sphere and ability to affect other people. I often think, is there a goal to increase one's sphere as much as possible? So today, I can affect a few friends. I can, at the power that I have now, I can affect them somehow. And then maybe next week, someone else. And keep expanding that sphere through, as David was speaking, just personal contact, but is there other ways to do that through organizations like Pamela creates, or music, or art? I often think, what is that kind of why we're here, to expand this sphere as much as possible. And I was interested to hear what you had spoke about with Albert about that. So I often think about that. What is that something we could be thinking about? Expanding that sphere to help other people, experience what James is speaking about. First, I would want to experience that, then to kind of give that to other people. Is that a goal? Is that service? So I was thinking about that. Amongst other things.
Rodney Collin, in The Mirror of Light, tells that we have the capacity to be able to affect people thousands of miles away and be affected by other people who are thousands of miles away. He also adds to this that in his belief there's someone who shares the same wavelength with you in some part of the world. and that you affect each other and that they affect you. That if there is gloom and lack of power out there, it sort of lands on you, which I think there's a tie with that with Buddhist thinking, and that as long as you're thinking well for the world at large, you'll be able to avoid that darkness landing on you. Why should we be limited to thinking that our sphere of influence is only a few feet or non-existent or maybe a room? I believe we have the capacity to influence spaces of no difference. We can influence the spheres of life. We can influence people. Is that being of service? Because when we come to the idea that by manifesting our sense of exuberance, we are being of service to the entire world, and especially to anyone who's in our neighborhood or is in conversation with us.
It's the same as the idea of prayer, no?
Mm-hmm.
The sense that you have a positive wish or a thought or a mitzvah or whatever you want to call it towards a thing or a situation or a person. The point in sharing it is to help to exact attention or effort towards that thing manifesting and altering from its present state. It can be practiced in as silly ways as thinking of someone and wanting them to call you and getting the phone to ring. I mean, it can happen, and it will happen. We notice it in little ways we call coincidence, I think, some of the time. And by stringing along enough coincidences, you start to understand that it's not, and it is magic. It's a little bit magical. It's operating under a different law.
Mm-hmm.
It requires self-remembering to be in the state where you're a clear channel to contact others or to be part of something. You can't do it without being aware and awake. And what James described is very interesting to me, because from that place is the place one can pray, and one can be sure that they're reflecting light into the world. It's not then just an idea or an illusion. It has to, according to the things that I've read and I've experienced, it has to be that way. And it's the only way to have it be that way. Not when you're covered and you can't smile. It's a very interesting topic to me. We spend our whole lives learning how to separate from our negative emotion. But that would be rather a waste of time. Just decide to not be in it and do more good tomorrow or in the next minute.
You reminded me of a point that I've had in mind. The classic literatures tell us, no, do not express negative emotions no matter what you do, and we learn that from day one. But nowhere in the literatures that I have read is there a strong statement that says, even more important than that, as important is, don't talk to yourself that way. Don't express negative things to yourself. I never read it that said, don't do that, that's very bad for you, etc., etc. At least not in the classic literatures. I've read it in other literatures. And it makes sense to me. The dialogue, the speech, I can't, I'm too tired, it won't work out. I don't know what I'm doing, really I think I just can't stand it anymore. I'm confused and I'm angry. This can go on for hours and hours, and I suspect that for some people it's their only inner dialogue. Well, no. No. If you're doing it, stop doing it immediately, because that's death. That's illness. That's lack of power, lack of life, lack of anything happening to you, because as long as the mind is thinking those thoughts, it can never tune in to something happening that's profitable, that's life-giving. It's very, 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 very bad. Don't do it. Can we change that dialogue to something else? Of course we can. Yes, I can. Yeah, I'm going to be healthy. I will continue being healthy. I'm going to be healthier tomorrow than I am today. I'm going to be calmer tomorrow than I am. I'm going to be everything that I think is good for me and my family and the world around me. Yes, I can manifest those things if I think about them, and I think dedicatedly enough and strong enough. Darn good chance it'll happen. In fact, if I'm really on the beam, it will happen. Like you, man, if you want to do what you do, if you want to be a stand-up, think of it all the time. Yes, I can, I certainly will. Why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't you? There are thousands of people doing it. Why shouldn't there be room for you? Why shouldn't your dreams and your hopes come true? The only person, I believe, or the most important enemy to your hopes and your dreams is you. I can't, I shouldn't, maybe it's the wrong thing to do, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too fat, I'm too... Escalator down. That ruins any capacity for anything that you want to really happen. What do you think, Sue?
There's been a lot of issues mentioned, so I'll try to touch on the various issues. I think nothing happens without, to borrow some Gurdjieff terminology, without the emotional center wanting it. The intellectual part of ourselves is not, can say it makes a decision, but it's not capable of doing anything. The moving center, likewise, it can't do anything unless it's told to do something by one of the other two centers. So I think it's the emotional center that really makes the decision. I think the emotional center is a part of ourselves that can be the closest to our essence or our core. For the same reason that it can be the closest to the core, I think it's also the center that can go the furthest away from the core at times. Because it has, that's its range, it has that capability. I think the things James was speaking about, I would say they're fairly advanced. Maybe he doesn't remember what it was like when, over 30 years ago, when he started doing these things. But I think he has achieved what he's achieved because he wanted to be the kind of person that he is now. He wanted to have the capabilities that he has now. He wanted it very badly before he had those capabilities. He wanted those capabilities, and that's why he has them now. Not because he decided intellectually that he should have them, but that deep inside himself he wanted them. And that's the type of person he wanted to be, and so he became that person. Spheres of influence, yes. I certainly believe in the spheres of influence. And I think they start with the self. So as we move through our lives, doing what we do, I think we take the actions that we take because we want to take them. And that's the reason that everyone here is sitting in this room right now, because a deep part of everyone in this room wants to be here and wants to learn the wisdom and have the feeling in themselves that one would associate with this sort of wisdom. As Gil pointed out one time, why does someone want to become a truck driver? Not because of the idea of being a truck driver or even because of the paycheck. It's because you want to sit in a big ass truck and drive that thing down the highway. That's the feeling of being a truck driver. That's why in my business, it's frustrating sometimes to see people who want to be in the music business for a reason like they want to, make money easily, or it seems like fun and not a lot of work, or they want to parade themselves in front of an audience and receive applause or whatever, or be written up in magazines or whatever. When real musicians are doing it because of the feeling that we get from doing it. I would conclude by saying that everything starts from wanting, and as you get the practice of wanting, you keep remembering, oh yeah, that's what I want, and you get more and more in touch with what it is that you really want, and that's how you get closer to it.
No, you said that, I can't remember the exact words you used, but the impression I got was we were talking about where you are, you're there because you wanted it. The life you live, you're living it because you wanted it. It made sense to you. That leads me to think more, whatever has happened, is happening to your life, it's because that's what the way you're conceiving it. It makes sense to me. What you don't want to happen in your real life, don't think about it. Because thinking about it will make it happen.
I wanted to, just along the lines of doing things the way you want to, like when James was speaking, it was his way of moving through time and space, so to speak. And like in Castaneda, speaking about different sorcerers having different ways to be. One did somersaults and one did something else, and I think you arrive at this way of being that suits your nature. And for myself, I live very specifically. Like I spend most of the day in an inner state of meditating. This is when it's, I'm in a right place. It's in, all the exercises I learn. Being able to have enough will to do them. That's what I arrive at first every day. And my sense is, so sensing deeply at a certain point, the organism, which I happen to be, gathers enough energy. And with that energy, it's almost like a mechanism. It adds that energy to an idea. It's an idea that I need to accomplish. I have lists and hundreds of things that I need to do. But I don't do any of them exactly. I have a sense of what they all are, what all the projects are. But what I'm really doing is gathering force. That force is used to infuse that idea with energy. Like Castaneda had said once, if you have in your mind a single idea, and your mind is empty of all other ideas, then that idea can occur. Will occur.
Yeah.
And so it's this sense of almost like the waves in an ocean. It's a way of being that then all those things happen. They have enough force. Just like it's said in a book I have on Egypt, that the idea in which I've really identified with, that there are people that help other souls is their main idea. And being able to infuse that soul, if one is meant to, with enough energy for that soul to leave life and proceed onward past this sphere with enough force to get to where they're going. And I find that idea, I always have found that idea totally inspiring. And that the gesture you make toward another person, you're giving what you're meant to give for that soul to move forward, if you have a position to do so. And so all this energy that you're gathering, which is your life force, and the energy given as a gift by other forces, you get to give this energy to ideas, to people. You know, as Derek was saying, what do you do with the sphere of influence? And it's identifying with this sense of being a certain way as a living organism. Someone else would have a totally different picture. For me, you know, like, what do I think about? In a good way, when negative inner dialogue doesn't take over, it's like I like to think of Egypt, everything about it. All my trips to Egypt, all the things I've written, all the ideas that I've read, that it's almost like being wrapped in a veil of total bliss for me. And I think for each person, it has this unique quality of being of that soul. And so we get to speak of those things. But I was struck by that each person is quite, at a certain point, quite individuated in that sensation of being.
Thank you. I agree with Sue that if the emotional center is not involved, I don't think anything's going to happen. I used to give the example of the intelligence, the rational center, sort of like being an old man in a business, in a loft, in a factory, 150 years old. He knows the business inside out. He knows everything to do with that business. But he can't get out of his chair. So he goes and he hires a young football player type who doesn't know anything about the business really, but he does what he's told. And this guy picks up the boxes, does it. He does the business. It seems to me that the emotional center is the one with the power to do. And the intellectual center is the capacity to think, plot, plan was good, read. But my conclusion is that without the emotional center being given strength, the emotional center desires. Desire is not an intellectual idea. You could say, gee, I want to desire this man because he's my husband, but I don't desire him. So my slant on work is a strong emotional center, the emotional center never to be squashed, which so much in the fourth way I've seen again and again and again. I don't feel anything. This part is detached from that part, which to me is total jive. The strength of the emotional part. I'll say, when I came to the conclusion that I wanted to do this, which I came to it in a very fast conclusion. I saw my teacher and I said, wow, yeah, I want to do this. That was it. I remember distinctly being in group and he spoke to me, Gil, what do you want? And I had only been in the group maybe 2 or 3 months. He said, I want your chair. He says, then you'll have it. And I have never, for an instant, wondered, can I do this? Should I do this? Am I prepared? Am I right? Nothing. I am going to do this forever. And it never left my mind that this is what I must do. And I'm doing it. And I will continue to do it. And fervently, I hope I die in this chair. What a nice way to go. Wow. Guy died in his chair in the middle of a meeting after he got paid. Not before. I don't die on the second week or the third week of the month. So, when you're paid.
So mind to desire, mind to decide, heart to desire, and body to do.
If you want to be technical.
I want to be simple.
Yeah. I believe that when people tell you, squash the emotional center, don't feel it, I think they're killing you. At least I think they're killing me, and I won't put up with it. No way in the world will I do that. I want my emotional center strong. I want my desire behind something, my want, my yearning, my obsession. And apparently I'm not alone, because there's a lot of other speakers out there who are saying the same thing. If you want something, you've got to desire it beyond the beyond. Like a musician wants to play, a dancer wants to dance. There's no telling them no. For me, a life without an emotional center is a colossal bore. And what you think will happen. But people say to me repeatedly, gee, you look so well, you're so healthy, when you're 90 years old. Why? Honestly, because I want to more than, wow, do I want to. That's my only thought. I get up in the morning, wow, okay, now let's do the intercostal breathing according to the full style as taught by Satsa. Nothing to, yeah, wow. I lie in bed and I'll do that for half an hour or something. That's my, now get up, have some sort of feed, take my vitamin D. That stupid FDA says take 1 a day, all vitamins, all pills, 1 a day. It can't hurt you, of course, there's nothing that's going to happen. Vitamin D, by me, 8 a day, 8,000 units, that's for sure. I got to do that, then I got to work out, then I got to do my weight. This is what's on my mind all the time. No wonder I look good, that's all I think of. I don't think about anything else, so Europe sank into the ocean. I'm sorry, too bad, But I got to go downstairs and try to push for 120, Of course he's healthy. That's all the guy thinks about is his vitamins and his food and his rest. Don't tell me 2 hours a night I got to sleep. That's important. Her, she tootles that saxophone all day long. This is her life. Her saxophone, the flute, the computer, the composer. This is what she does every minute of every day practically. That's why she's a strong player. You told me you send letters to people, emails, and you talk to them on the phone. It occurred to me, can this be done with a feeling of your joy in doing this? It might be obscene in your business world. I don't know how those guys are. Other than you, I never met another one. Can you call somebody, hello Charlie, how are you? I want to buy 1,000 shares. Before that, how's your dog? The last time we spoke, your dog wasn't feeling so good. But That's the way I would do it. Maybe I would get thrown out in a half an hour. But see what you can put into it that way. Send the guy an email. Make his day better. Influence him. Influence him to feel that being around you is good for his life. Not just buying a building from you, but it's good for his life. He feels better after he's spoken to you. I think if you can do that, man, you'll sell everything. Yes.
Mark agrees with that. Thinks that instead of going in like a tank commander, trying to make things happen, trying to hit someone with a little sunshine, does something different, changes the energy. Mark's trying to do that. I have to talk with Mr. Gill this week to try to inject someone with positivism. It's good. It creates better situation for change, for transformation in that moment, and for the possibility for a connection between the two people involved. And it creates something else instead of just a transaction.
Mm-hmm. Albert, I would personally be delighted if you told what you told me about the business and yourself, and with it, paint the picture. It cheers me up to hear it.
I don't remember what I said.
That's okay, so lie again.
I say what I think. I have a terrible memory. Thank you. Don't remember.
Don't remember what?
You know, I think I'm actually very glad that Gil is talking about well-being, smiling. If there is one thing about the Dalai Lama that I love, he's always smiling. He's saying some horrible stuff and he's like smiling and he's laughing and he says, you know, you need a sense of humor. And I do think that we should think of ourselves as people who are born into this world as children with a lot of light, and then our parents and life and teacher, they're flatter than us, they put us in a pita bread, and then you grow up, if you're lucky, you find a group of people that says, look, we're in the dark, we're in the tunnel, let's get to work, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And some people say, yeah, let's do it. You know, I always think of myself as a cell in, let's say, I'm a cell in the body. So maybe this lifetime I'm a muscle cell. Not so hot. Not so rich. Not so good, you know. But I realize that I'm a cell inside of this whole thing. And I'm learning and studying that if you have attention and it's mechanical and there is all these things that can happen and we can influence people and we can have a well-being, and if you remember yourself and consciousness and this and that. But all of this, if you think that you are a cell and you want to be happy and okay in the cell, you're sleeping. But if you say, hold on, if I'm a cell and I live in this world and I can do things here, maybe I should start changing. I think the work is talking about change. And it's our responsibility to read between the lines. Do not express negative emotion. Okay. Be cheerful. How are you? Good. This is cheerful. Do not express it. Just do not. And thinking, I think, is horrible. It's one thing to think it and believe it, but when you start working a little bit, you see that the mind is working, then you don't believe it. So the fears and the horrible thing, I'm jealous, I'm fearful, I'm not good enough, I'm this, you don't believe it anymore. You start to flourish. Yes, it's not going to take you, a month or two. You need to develop attention. You have to develop willpower to take these ideas from the heavens and put it on earth, on this body. I think that you can change from being a muscle cell to a heart cell, and later on become a brain cell and influence the whole body. It's possible because it was done in the past. It's our thinking and our understanding and our willing to suffer consciously. For example, for many years, all the aims I took, I will pray for the well-being of the world. I love the ideas that I don't have to do anything all day. All my aims were energy. I'll send energy to people. And one day I said, Albert, an aim, stay healthy. No coffee, no cigarette, no ice cream, no this. No, I'll do later. I'll do this later. Organize the house. Clean the house. Do your laundry, no matter what, your laundry will be clean. You're going to change your sheet. You're not going to live like an animal. You're going to shower once a day. Very basic things. No, I will do later. Let me pray for the world. And then later on you see that if you really want to change, you got to do, the real work. And don't be afraid. And if you wish, for example, my wish was always to turn what I do for a living as a business to my life. So not to have a cafe. A cafe, I have to wake up in the morning, do cafe things. So I would like to be, for example, a teacher of the fourth way, but there's no money in it. So I would do it as a, as a sidekick, a volunteer. And I come to the meetings, the men meetings, and I do my share. But on my mind, I always thought maybe I'm capable, or maybe the work or my destiny can give me something that I could do with everything that I learned from Mr. Gil, that maybe I can change the whole world. I had all kind of ideas. It was a stuttering school that I wanted to open. I was all these things, but it didn't work. And I continued to work and continue. And I'll tell you what, being positive and cheerful, it's not only influencing the immediate people around us, it works. If I have a problem with the AT&T line, it doesn't work. It doesn't. She's like, hold on. Of course, hold on. If someone comes to me, your coffee sucks, I'll put them on hold too. So how are you? How was your morning? Where are you? Oh, in Texas. It's hot in New York. We're in New York. It's hot. We talk. She's going to help me. I don't know anything about her dog, but I have relationships that are very nice with the people I work with. I don't think of greed, and I don't think of give me a discount. I think a long-term relationship, I will get much more out of the people if I treat them like people, and I also in a yes mode. When you do these things, you get in a yes mode. Without the yes mode, it's not going to work. If you're not healthy and you wake up in the morning and you eat burgers, it's not going to happen for you. I don't think. I never seen an unhealthy person do well. It's maybe rich, but it's never. The healthy people, they have different energy. The body is more there. The mind is more focused. They feel better because this is life. This is how it works. You gotta be healthy, you gotta be focused, and you feel good. Now, the responsibility for us, I think the most important thing in the work says, take responsibility. It's not gonna happen to you. Most of us say, one day I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be rich. No, it's not going to happen. It's going to happen only if we do it. I think dealing with fear and doing it with the fear is the best feeling in the world. And especially if you make it, you just go and you actually make it. You're afraid, you do it. It works, it doesn't work, you try. But you never stop because you're not afraid. And dream big. The worst things can happen, it doesn't work, but at least you dream big. I think that luck has to do a lot with it, because luck will come to people that are cheered and believe in themselves, and they create a very good team around them, a very good school. Because imagine to yourself what one person can do, and then when he has a team around him that can do, so we can move a lot of things. The happiness idea, I know it's hard for a lot of people, but in the end of the tunnel, I think when we work a lot, we get used to it. We just keep working until we die. And I think we have to remember one day that it says, okay, we work for what? What is the goal? Who has a plan? Who has a wellness plan? Who has a plan of how to live this life and in 20 years? And I'm not talking about money, but about influence, maybe a part of the body or the whole body. So have a goal. So with the clean program, I was wishing all of this wishing. It was underneath of my, nose. It's a friend of mine that has been trying and trying and trying. And then he came to me and he says, let's do it, and we do it. And it's a pleasure because it's happening. Everybody's in a good mood. Everybody's, believe in themselves. And we want to change the world. And we sit in our meeting and you're going to say, these guys are crazy. What are they talking about? We want to change healthcare. Yeah, maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't. But this is what we want to do. So it sounds crazy. And we have no money. And we put all our money into it. But, we're happy and we're doing it. And I think it's worth it because we live it once. It's going to be over soon. So might as well give it the best shot.
Thank you. Thank you. Speaks about luck. What we call luck, coming to a person or an area where it's welcome. Because if we can speak about luck doing something, it's almost in the manner of speaking alive. Luck helped me. But if you're in a state of mind that's dark, luck says, no, I don't want to come near this person. I think that the world comes to us if we're receptive and we have good intention. Rodney Collin always spoke of intent. What's your intent? To make a pile of money and drink and gamble and have a house. There isn't an intent there that has any nobility to it. Money, start a school, start this, start that, do a lot of things. Then it's easier to come. So much of what Albert was speaking about makes a lot of sense from an old book called The Power of Positive Thinking. This is 1941 or something, or forever now. Which was basically saying a lot of what I've been saying, what we've all been saying. And these ideas came into disrepute in time because that's so corny. The power of positive thinking. Mm-hmm. Who wants to be positive? But through all the examples, we see the people who are doing things that we can admire. They all have an undercurrent of, yes, it can be done. I will do it. I will try to do it. I can find people who will help me do it. And it's important to say work without the intention of having a fuller, richer life inside ourselves is something that I've known for years. I never thought that work should lead to that. Work should lead to clarity, should lead to strength, should lead to a lot of things that we've known for years. But I never once thought work should lead to a feeling of personal richness. But I sure am thinking so now. I don't know why. I can't imagine why, but suddenly Something shifted.
I think one of the most important things in our lives is to connect with this work and bring others. It's a responsibility. It's the work for the school and the work for the work. If I meet a person that is a smart guy and he has good advice, but he's melancholic and it's not so hard for me. But if I meet a person that is well-being, is fine, I want what he has, and I'm drawn to him, to his ideas. If he does this and he is actually living like this all the time when I see him, I want to learn the trick, and this is the trick. To be like this stiff, it's not attractive. Maybe it used to be in Russia in 1912, but it's 2009 in New York City with the bad economy. It doesn't fly.
That's so true, because we have to remember things in context. When the classics were written, when Mr. Gurdjieff was doing his work, it was 1910, 1912. The world had just come out to and was going into World War I. Disaster, disaster, disaster. Revolutions. Very, very few people, especially in Russia, could read and write. Maybe 1 out of 200 could read and write. This was a group of people who could read and write. The idea of intelligence, the idea of control, the idea of self-mastery, all these things that we know the literatures made very, very much sense in an era and a country that didn't have it, because in 1919, H.G. Wells wrote a book about Russia, and he said that in those years, when a building was on fire in a village, they put the fire out with milk. That's what you're supposed to do. The milk for the people and for the children, put out the fire with milk. The country was so much into superstition. It was really a very, very, very extremely backward, illiterate country. This group of people got together, the intelligentsia, and they put together their presentation of self-work. Different time. Nowadays, everybody knows how to write, everybody knows how to read, everybody knows how to think. It's a different world. There was no point in telling the mass at that time, try to be well-balanced, try to be satisfied, try to be happy, because a Russian play, what do you want? It's not going to happen. So we live in a time where our language, I feel, had to change to accommodate the mentality of the people of our time. Again and again, the idea, we have the power to wish. And even Mr. Gurdjieff had written something beautiful about wishing. One has to wish something to be. Well, the ideas, I think, in so many ways are so similar. The language has changed in so many, many years. And now again, we're living in a time where I personally feel this is a very, very frightened, stuttering, fall-apart time of life for everyone. Institutions that we believed in were there and strong to take care of us are no longer doing that. It's a very frightening time. Everyone's confused. No one has an answer. The world is really, as far as I see it, on the edge of the end of banking, the end of bad times. And we have to be prepared to enter into a period of life where we must be strong, We must have self-leadership. We must have the capacity to influence ourselves, people around us, and be very, very courageous for the times that are coming that are really, as far as I see them, worse than bad. And we have to be strong to live. And if we tell ourselves, I can't, won't succeed, if this happens or that happens, we'll all go down with it, then we won't. But I know that I have said for years, and everybody, I want to live at 2 o'clock. I want to live at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, all the clocks. I want to live. I want to keep on living. I don't want to starve. I don't want the buildings to fall apart. No, I want to live. So I must prepare myself mentally and physically to be a survivor in what I consider to be an upcoming very, very, very bad scene. What do you think all this time you've been sitting there pensing?
Just about this immediate, this last point. I think if we think of what we were talking about, that we create what we believe in and what we really want. Believing that these are hard times ahead of us is creating hard times ahead of us. I believe that it's definitely times of change and challenge. But if I look around, I don't see that the world we have created is such an amazing place. And it's time for change. And if change is coming, I believe it's change for the better. And if buildings need to fall, then buildings will fall. And corrupt systems will fall. And something maybe new that we cannot perceive right now or understand can grow out of that rot. And the best way I can prepare for that is a wish for that to happen. And I truly wish for that to happen. Feeling good in this world as it is, or knowing how to do it and to manage and to make it work, I think I'm doing a pretty good job at it. But at the same time recognizing that it sucks. As a system, it sucks. I don't think it's about individuals, it's not about human beings. It's a rotten system, and I don't fear its destruction. I await it, and yes, it might not be easy, but it's not that easy now either. There's millions of people suffering on a daily basis, and so all these threats of things falling apart, and millions will starve. Well, millions are starving, and millions are dying. And millions don't have where to live. It's happening already, so it's like, what is it that we're really being threatened with, except a chance for maybe building something new that we can't imagine what it will be like, because all we know is what we have. So, regarding the revolution. And then all I can say about my, right now, like what comes to me about like my sphere of influence is, my experience of my sphere of influence is when I get up in the morning and I go to yoga school where I assist my teacher. Is approaching every single person in there and intuitively helping them transform that moment that I'm right there with them and seeing it happen. And I'm not thinking about it, and I don't plan it, and it's something that just happens. I guess I've been trained for it somehow. And I see people smiling. Doing some really difficult, say, bodily, physical postures, or experiencing physical pain, and it can come and relieve it, and can just physically touch them or make them laugh, make them relax. Just be with them for a second and make them feel very, very special. And I do it 6 days a week, and it's very rewarding. And when I'm done with that, I go home and I bake cakes, and I make good cakes, if I may say so myself. And even though I don't eat them anymore.
Why not?
I don't eat gluten. But people who eat them, I've been told in the past, they've been known to make people smile and feel good. And
I'll smile if you have one with you tonight.
Some raw ice cream for you. But I mean, that's another way of influencing people. So that's another way, and I think that everything that I do is, in a way, has its influence, and that everything's connected. And I keep seeing it, and it was touched before earlier. And I just keep getting like a little demonstrations of the connectedness, the interconnectedness. And at this point, I don't see it as coincidences, but at this point I smile, and usually I look up to the sky. Even when I'm in my apartment, I look up to the ceiling and I say, "Thank you," because it's just so wonderful to see it. Like earlier today, I was baking and I was playing, I think it was Grieg's Per Gint. And I forgot which part it was, but it was like, na 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 na. And, I mean, that was my music from baking today. And then when I was done baking, I went and I casually chose a movie from Netflix streaming. Before I knew it, the character was sitting there and she picked up a horn and she played that track. And I was like, wow, this is beautiful. I mean, this was my theme for the day, and even the movie I chose played me that theme, and it was like so beautiful to see that it's all working together, and if I'm able to see it, it's so magical.
You speak like a man who does not come from fear.
Most of the time, I think I'm not.
You see, no matter what happens, whatever scenario goes down, some people will survive. And some people will survive very, very well. And some people will not be so affected, if affected at all. The attitude that he speaks of is the attitude that will get through it fine. Why shouldn't we get through everything fine? There are people in bad health, but we're not. There are people who are in dreadful financial struggles at this point, but we're not. There are people who are going through all kinds of suffering, but we're not. Any further statements, comments, somewhere, something? Do you have anything to say after you've been here with us for an hour or two?
It's wonderful to hear all of this stuff. It's so positive, and yeah. Before I came here, I didn't know where I'm going, basically, because she didn't tell me much about it, and I wasn't in very good state of mind. I was thinking very negatively before I came here. But now I think I feel much better. All of this magic and this wonderful things I heard, it really expands my mind. So I like it.
We all said all this just to make you feel better. That was the idea. Thank you for coming. Thank you for understanding and being open to what we're talking about. So So I guess that's it, and from here the catering department takes over. Is that it?
Maybe Sam has a couple words because he hasn't spoken.
Sam has not spoken? How did he get away with that?
I don't know.
Well, go.
Wow, I have nothing to say. Just touch on what Yossi was saying, the connectedness of things. I like to share a couple of stories. I think they're pretty good. One was after the Tuesday night meeting, I was on my way home and get out at 42nd. I'm about to get out, and on the turnstile there's a post-it note. It says, "Smile because you're beautiful." And I kid you not, it just blew my mind.
That was for somebody else.
And, little things like that just happen that it just makes you really say, is it coincidence? Can't be. What was the other thing? Oh, I was making a playlist for my iTunes, and it was getting close to 2 o'clock. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to miss it today. It's 1:57, and keeping my eye out, looking at this, 1:58. And this song, this like 70s disco song, Born to Be Alive. That thing comes on, and I'm like, oh my God! I look, it's 2:04. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But that just blew me away. It's just like, there's got to be something there, man. It's just born to be alive. What else? But again, Joseph was, talking about the world falling apart, and I really think if you're a person that does well in life, you'll do well in any situation. And calamity and doomsday scenarios, all those things, if they were to happen, and you were a person that was happy and functioning and successful in this system, you'll do the same in the other system. I remember I had a philosophy teacher in college, and she presented us with a scenario. She's like, if you had, let's say, the collapse of capitalism, who would be people that would survive? And we're all like, well, all the rich people are right, because they don't do anything. They just sit around, order people around, and people that would survive would be the working people. And she's like, no, you're wrong. The rich people would survive because they have mastered that particular system. So whatever system is in operation, someone who is positive, who is smart, who is willing to go out and do something, will learn the tricks, will learn the ropes, and survive. So if you're that kind of person, you'll do well no matter what is going on around you. And the notion of being positive, it's infectious. Just like when somebody walks in a room and they're upset, and everybody else kind of picks up on it, and then everybody's in a bad mood. The opposite is true. For me, whenever I go into work and people ask me, how you doing? I'm like, fantastic, great. And all of a sudden they're smiling. They could have, their dog could have died that morning, but boom, there's a smile on their face, and then you just keep that going. And I see it in people's faces. Some people have that ability to, make that switch go off, and it's showtime. And it's a decision. It's hard work. It's not easy. You always it takes effort. But who cares? It's easy. It's not worth doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. During the Great, Great, Great Depression, I think about 46% of people went through fine. So that no matter what happens, some people are not going to go down and get beat and lose this. No. Some people do and will. But again, we make up our minds not to. With this coming flu thing, the National Guard is going to come to your door and make sure that you get your flu shot and this and that, and the kids are going to, everybody's going to die, whatever. My immune system is not going to get hit by any flu. I'm not taking any shots. No, I'm going to be fine, wonderful. I decided that. I may be wrong in case, if I'm wrong, Albert, you stood over here. But I don't see, no, I'm immune to flus and influenzas and whatever is coming down the pike. I believe so. But I really, really believe so. Whatever happens, I think as a body of people, we are going to be on top of it. Can't want more than that. You too. Thank you for being here. I had a very, very nice time being here. I enjoyed being here. What's so funny about that? Yeah, you got to tell me now. You were the first one to laugh, so you have to explain it.
No, it was just in keeping with the whole evening. It was a nice way to end the evening. Very fitting. Very proper for the performer of the evening to end the performance.
Now, you probably have noticed that I have never said that before. Never, 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 never.
That's true, yeah.
Yes, it's true.
The word nice.
The
word nice.
The word night. K-N-I-G.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Oh.
Yeah.
It's the word
It's not really a strong one in your vocabulary, nice.
No, you kid. No. Nice.
I think James might have been amused by nice. I was amused by
I don't know.
nice.
Just the delivery.
Yeah, it was the
All
delivery.
in delivery.
Yeah, it's like you say. It just reminds me when we were children, we were all trying out for some award. We all had to be interviewed at this lady's house. And we're all sitting there eating cookies. And each one of us goes into the den, right, to be sort of told, to have us say all these nice things. Like it's all like we would all have to say, oh, we've had such a nice afternoon. And I remember this one girl, she was eating a cookie and the cookie pinwheel down her leg. Like a wheel across the room and hit the molding. And every time I think of this idea that I had a very nice time to see all these little girls in dresses very properly sitting there being interviewed. It's a very nice thing to say.
Yeah. Well then, God bless and good night.
But we're having snacks.
But we have snacks, you believe it.
Well, I
Well, every day.
No, okay.
Okay.